going to talk about is the brand new Macklemore album, and he has titled it Ben. So Ben is the third solo studio album by American rapper Macklemore. It was released on March 3rd, 2023. Macklemore has publicly stated that the album's content was influenced by his relapse with alcohol addiction during the COVID-19 lockdowns. So, Eric, I'm pretty sure you don't have any sort of background with Macklemore or past experience with Macklemore. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this one. So take it
Mm.
away.
So again, I don't know anything about this guy. Um, and everybody who knows me, I don't know much about hip hop music. But since this podcast, since we started this, I've started getting into a lot more. I know some people have made recommendations, and I've really liked what they've given. Like I actually don't think I've not liked a recommendation that I've gotten from any of you out there. But um, it compared to the ones that we've reviewed so far on this show, I just don't see it having any like,
Oh,
but
okay.
like just compared from what I've heard before, like Wu-Tang Clan, like Tribe Called Quest, right? Like I feel like these guys are legit. These guys are like in it. I just can't get over the goddamn album name, Ben. It's just like, let's go to Uncle Ben's house. Uncle Ben. Right? However, I didn't mind the album. I didn't hate it. I didn't mind the
Okay.
album. I actually, there were, I felt like this album was a very mix of pop music, like an 80s style, like pop mixed with hip hop. And I felt like this is one of the albums ever on this podcast where I've actually liked the bottom half of the album
Whoa.
more so
Okay.
than the top half.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
um, I'm gonna I, I'm gonna tell you some of my favorite songs on this album and see if Cam agrees with me. The master hip hopper. I don't know. I don't know what
It's
the
not. That's
terminology.
not really exact, but
It's not a
okay.
term. So I said you're the master hip hopper. But okay, so I would say my favorite song on this album is God's Will.
God's. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
I thought that was a cool song. It had like a jazzy bass to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was grooving. Like I was feeling the groove. Um what I really the other song I really liked on the album was Lost, Sun Comes Up.
Okay. Yeah.
And just because of the lyrics kind of hit me with that album because it was like almost like talking about how like we're so distracted in this world
Yeah.
with our phones and everything that we don't take time to appreciate what's actually going on around us and the company that we keep. And I feel like that's something that's very true and that's something our society is struggling with right now. But I do have to say, lyrically, I really dug Macklemore.
Mm,
I
cool.
really thought his songs were well written and the message was very well received.
Mm-hmm.
Um, however, like, and then this is just based off of the previous hip hop albums I've seen, which are like legends in the hip hop community.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just it doesn't have that soul that they have, like that. Just like it just I felt like I was there hanging out with them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like he was really trying to. It was almost like a publicity message that he was trying to shove in your face. Not that I disagreed with his publicity message because there's a lot of songs that I actually connected with on that. But um, I did find one of the lines I busted out laughing in the song "Grime"
Oh yeah.
when he says, "Look what I've made off of Pro Tools."
Yeah.
I cried when I heard that song because I was like, "What?" Look what I made off of Logic, everybody. Right? Just name insert digital audio software name here. Right? I just like okay.
It's so interesting to hear your opinion as a non like hip hop head. Um
Mhm.
it's so interesting because I feel like it's pretty spot on with how the general community feels about like Macklemore.
Oh, really? Okay,
That's
that's good.
that's a
That makes me happy.
that's a general sense I sort
Okay.
of get. So there's a bit of background. Macklemore, Seattle rapper, um, a lot of I guess his life story is really revolved around drug addiction and alcohol addiction. That's like a lot of his like early like mixtapes and EPs and stuff really was like about all of that stuff.
Mm,
Um, and then he blew up with like songs like Thrift Shop and was just like I would say it's a meme song, but like it's like a club tune or like a radio hit type of thing.
okay.
And then he got into like super like social commentary stuff, so like gay rights, Black Lives Matter, like he went into that whole phase of stuff. And it's during that time where he won, and we don't mention this award show, but he won Best Rap
Wow.
Album of the Year award.
And
Um,
some award show in the
at
world.
some awards show that we don't mention on the show, but specifically that event is important because
Mm,
that year also
mm.
Kendrick Lamar released his album, which everyone was like, this is the greatest hip hop album of all time.
Oh,
So when
interesting.
he won that award, everyone's like, what the fuck? There's another white
Yeah.
guy in the rap world who like won over like the legit black artist, right? And then
Mm.
after that, Macklemore like he like texted Kendrick Lamar directly apologizing, saying like he should have won, like Kendrick should have won an award.
Really?
And then he posted that private message on his like Twitter or wherever the frick he posted it. And I was like, this is like the most ridiculous, like it was just seen as really corny. Like he was doing it just to
Interesting.
save face essentially. I personally, I don't think he was doing it to save face. I think he legitimately thinks that his album is not as good as Kendrick Lamar's. Like I think he does recognize that, but the way he
Yeah.
did it, like PR wise, was just like
Mm.
it was a bad look.
It was a bad mistake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone's like,
I
you're just
gotcha.
doing it for like the likes and whatever.
Yeah.
So after that point, everyone just like clowning on Macklemore. Like every time he
Mm.
releases something, no one thinks it's like real hip hop,
Mm.
because it's not. I think a lot of hip hop needs to have some sort of tie to authenticity, right?
Hmm.
And because of that, it was like, whatever. Uh,
I do feel like he does have that authenticity because he does like have a message in this album
mm,
for sure,
yeah,
and I completely got it. Like it's about like all these issues that are arising from COVID
yeah,
and stuff like that, right? And I do, and you know, I guess I shouldn't really like hammer on it that bad because there's a lot of like featured artists on this album.
mhm,
I don't know many of them, so maybe that's why it sounds different at times. But I think that's why I liked the bottom half because I was going in with this expectation of being like I'm listening to a hip hop album here, and I started getting like almost like a R&B pop kind of style at the very beginning, and I was like, okay, that's not what I was like wanting from this. And
yeah.
I think it was skewed. Like I didn't hate it at all. Like I actually thought it was pretty decent. Um, like it was very easy listening.
Yeah. Chasing Dragon's Eyes, poor Macklemore. And sometimes I do feel sorry for him because like
Mm,
his life story is interesting. Like coming from that sort of broken home, drug addiction, relapsing, and all
yeah.
that. Like that's his thing. That's his angle when it comes to his artistry. So like, and also his lyrics, I feel like he's not the greatest rapper of all time, obviously, but like he does have like a good message in there, and he does have some like really good lines. But it is it is sort of like bubblegummy. It is very pop first, and then like rapping lyrics second, which is sort of how I feel about this album. It is
Mm.
catchy. My favorite song on this is No Bad Days, the second song on the album.
That was a good song. Yeah.
I think that's the hookiest, like most addictive song on the album.
Mhm.
But I do agree with you. Lost Sun comes up. Man, those lyrics, so good.
Yeah, I just really hit home, and it was one of those things where like I've listened to this album a few times, and every time that song came off, are on, I was literally like, it was almost like a mini like therapy session,
Mm,
like
yeah.
essentially, right? Because I'm just like, wow, this guy's like really clearly stating issues in society today that are happening. So what you said about him talking about like the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, like I would love to listen to what his thoughts were on that, because I feel like he was so spot on with this issue
Mm,
that it'd be interesting to see what he's singing about in those other songs, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, like there's some definitely like very direct good messages in a lot of these songs. The problem is
Mm.
like the thing with hip hop, it has to have some authenticity, and like it just seems like a lot of the times he's just rapping about topics of the day that will get him
Mm.
publicity.
I
is
see.
is sometimes like how I when I listen to the album, like, is this really like your thoughts about it? Like, is this what you're thinking about every day, and like this is why you have to write about it? Or is it like because it is the quote unquote like topic of the day, this is
Mm.
why you wrote that song? So there's always that question when I listen to Macklemore uh, songs. The whole album, I think, what it sounds pretty good. It's overall catchy throughout the whole thing. The one weird song on this album for me was Heroes featuring DJ Premier.
Yeah, I
That
agree.
DJ
That was
Premier is top 3 DJs of all time in terms of hip hop, I would say. He's somewhere in the top
mm.
3. And Heroes is a proper hip hop song because of DJ Premier. Like that beat is just like grimy and like very New
Mm.
York, but like it's it sticks out on this album because everything else on this album is like squeaky clean bubblegum type of
Yeah,
like production, and it goes into this like hardcore hip hop beat, and it's like this didn't really belong here.
yeah, and that's where I had a problem with this album, because maybe it's because he had so many features on the album. That's why it sounded different in retrospect. Like I still
Mm,
think my favorite song on this is God's Will, just because of just it sounded so cool, like so groovy. But I do agree, like it's very bubblegummy. It's
yeah.
very like this is new hit and everybody will love this. Right. Whereas I love that grittiness of hip hop. That's what I'm loving about these albums that we've reviewed in the past,
Hmm.
right? Just like that. I want to, I just want to be with my buddies, right? Like
Hmm.
that's what it feels like. That's what hip hop feels to me now. After
Mm,
learning from this podcast, is just hanging out with your friends and having a good time,
hmm.
and that's what I didn't get from this album.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Final thoughts, ratings. Let's wrap this up because this
I
it's a weird
mean,
album. It's a weird album for me.
it's a weird album. It's not a bad album.
Mm.
I feel like the name is hilarious, Ben. just I just can't get over the name for the album. But I'm gonna give this a 7. 7 out of 10.
Mm. Yeah. It's for me, it just has an authenticity problem. For me, that's like when I listen to it, I'm just like,
Mm.
I don't know if I believe what you're saying. Most of the stuff I do agree with, but I just don't believe it. I don't have that conviction.
Mhm.
Um, so it's got to be a 6 out of 10 for me. It's a good sounding album, but there wasn't enough there for me,
Mm.
especially when it comes to hip hop. There was like, if you're a hip hop head, forget this album, like skip it. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason to listen to this. But from
Yeah.
like just a easy listening pop type of album that has a hip hop flavor, sure, why not? 6 out of 10. Okay, cool. So that was our discussion about Ben by Macklemore, his brand new album.
Uncle
Um,
Ben.
for those of you following along with us every single week, the album or the quadruple album that we are going to be
Mhm.
listening to for next week will be the brand new album Songs of Surrender by U2. I don't really know if this is considered an album. It's more like a compilation,
Yeah.
even though all the songs are rearranged. But essentially, it's like all of U2's hits, but done in a completely different way. So it'll be
Mm.
interesting. Four discs. It's 40 songs. A lot. But yes, Songs of Surrender by U2 will be out the album for next week. Eric, I think we should probably wrap this up for tonight. Um,
Yes.
let's just update the screen. Give me 1 second. There you go. All right, perfect. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is the Crossroads Music Podcast. We are a weekly music podcast here every single Monday at twitch.tv/the Crossroads Music Podcast. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the places where you catch your podcasts. I think, is there anything else? Oh, join the Discord. Give us your thoughts on any of the things that we discussed today. Come yell at us about certain things. Maybe you think
Yeah.
Macklemore is the greatest rapper today. Who knows?
Absolutely. Like, prove us wrong. And any recommendations you want us to listen to,
Yeah,
you know?
that
Yeah.
too. Oh yeah, suggest future albums. But yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. And that should be it for tonight. We'll catch you all next time.
See ya.